Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod, Season 4, Episode 5. We are coming to you from the bedroom. It is hot in New York City. 90-something, feels like it's probably a touch higher. You may hear the AC in the background. It is most necessary. Hope everyone's doing well. Things are popping off in New York City. The Knicks are winning, as I'm sure everyone and their grandmother knows by now. The World Cup is going on. I don't think the games have started here yet, but that's going on. And there will be some games here. And we are chilling. I can't remember what I shared most recently about my work life. I just finished substitute teaching. I was in a class I was with 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds for a month, and then I was with third graders for a month, and I just finished on Wednesday. I got a job at that school in downtown Brooklyn. I'm going to be working with 3-year-olds next year, so I'm really excited about that. Now it's summer break, so here we are. Summer break, I'm stoked. Still hasn't really hit me. I went to a Mets game with my buddy Aaron. What up, Aaron? Aaron, sometimes listener, interviewee as well. Loyal Patty Pod fans may remember that's the Aaron Chase that was interviewed by yours truly sometime, I think it was last year. I think it was about a year ago, just over a year ago. In any case, we hit the Mets game. We hit Jackson Heights prior, which has got a plethora of different ethnicities and their associated cuisines, of course. We went to a Pakistani place. It was pretty good. And we also got a little after-lunch treat called a Paan, P-A-A-N. I'd never had it. Aaron, some of you may remember, has traveled to some places Westerners don't often go to, and he's quite knowledgeable about all sorts of different cultures and ethnicities, and he knew about the naan. The Paan. Naan is the bread. It's basically some kind of a sweet. There was some oil that was in there, and then some other kind of sweet, kind of candied items, and they wrap it up in some kind of a leaf, like a banana leaf or something, into a triangular shape, and you stuff it in your mouth like a chaw, like a plug of chewing tobacco, and you just kind of let it sit in your cheek, and you suck on the juices, which are nice and sweet. So I had my first Paan yesterday. I feel like a real South Asian. My gums are a little sore today, but it was fun. In any case, that's what's popping. That's what's popping with me. I hope everyone's doing well. Let's jump into episode 5 here. It's easy to lose sight of the magnificence of something just because it's common. I had that thought the other day when I looked at my cat, and I thought how incredible it is that I have this living creature in my home, and we can live together peacefully, this animal and I and Kate, and we can even love each other. At the same time, my cat is currently driving me crazy. In fact, I saw a gay man give me a look at a coffee shop today, and I thought he might think I'm gay. Then I thought about if he asked me that, and how at this point I'd tell him I'm so desperate to sleep, I'd probably marry a toaster if it promised me a quiet home. So yeah, my man Gunther, my cat, is getting really old and probably got dementia. He's got abdominal cancer and kidney disease and a thyroid issue, and he's getting medicine for all of that, and he's not eating that regularly. We've started to have to give him an appetite stimulant to get him to eat, and he gets up really early in the morning, like sometime between 4:30 and 5:15 every morning, and Kate, bless her heart, gets up and attends to him. And I kind of think it may be time to put him to sleep, but she thinks it's not, so we're having that debate. And it's tricky because after about 6:30 or so, he kind of settles down, and then he's fine. He's his normal self. He's not like hiding under the bed or anything. But we do have to give him medicine to get him to eat now, and there's these windows of like 2.5, 3 hours, or 2 hours, maybe 1.5, 2 hours, where he's like meowing every 20 minutes, and Kate gives him food, and then he eats it, but then he just starts meowing, and we don't know what to do. She kind of has to like be with him in the room. So it's a little nuts. It's driving me a little crazy. I don't really know what to do. I feel like we're kind of in a gray area with the fact that we have to give him an appetite stimulant to get him to eat. If it was just up to me, I think that would be the indication that it's time, but Kate doesn't agree with me. So in any case, we're at a bit of an impasse. I don't know what to do about it. I really don't have any good ideas. It's too expensive for me to go and spend nights in a hotel. Our apartment's not big enough to put him in another space that would keep him away from us. In any case, I don't know what to do. I was asked recently in a job interview, for the job that I got, what do I do when I don't know what to do? And I said that if I really can't think of anything to do, I accept the situation. And my interviewer liked that, but I gotta say, I do think that's a good approach. And when I just accept the situation, things are a little bit better. But I'm not really thrilled with that plan right now. I sort of hear a voice in my head that says, oh, there's always something. And there most certainly is. My mind usually focuses on whatever is most displeasing. And, naturally, as life isn't perfect, there's always there always is something. But there's also a difference between happiness and unhappiness. I've had moments of real happiness and real unhappiness in the last 2 years. So I'm pretty clear about that. And I'm pretty sure I would be happier if my sleep was better. So it's tough to accept this situation. I will accept it, but I promise you, listener, this isn't the most graceful acceptance. It's more like whistling through your teeth and spitting. It's more like the whistling through your teeth and spitting kind that the Grateful Dead sing about. Moving on to the language corner, I'd like to be described more often with the phrase swashbuckling and or devil may care. So swashbuckling and or devil may care, those are phrases I would love to have applied to me. So if anyone knows how I can do that, let me know. Go ahead and reach out. Fax, phone call, however we're going to do it. Staying in the language corner, whatever happened to blow smoke up your ass? I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, Jimmy, but you got a hell of a curveball. I just don't hear that anymore. Is that too blue collar? Is it too earthy? I feel like I'm going to get some pearl clutching if I do that. Maybe just if I do it on the East Coast. I'd like to know about that. What happened to that? Blow smoke up your ass? It's a good one. I'm going to put that one in my back pocket. I'm going to pull it out. Maybe I'll just start it at hockey. I think it's a safer space for that kind of language. We need safe space for working class white guy slang. I think so. 1980s working class white guy colloquialisms. So I'll keep you updated. I'm glad I don't have too many haters. I really don't have too many haters. That's good. I suppose when you have tens of listeners, perhaps my head hasn't popped up high enough above the crowd to have too many haters, but I'm keenly aware of all the haters that I do have. That's the Irish in me. My good friend Adam is into pattern breaking. Every night as he tucks his kid into bed, they break a pattern in some way. Maybe they'll say, see you later, crocodile. After a while, alligator, or some such. I love it. I think breaking patterns helps us achieve that all-important task of being ourselves. It also helps keep the energy flowing through life. Obviously, routines are important. They give our brain much-needed breaks. You don't have to think through everything But breaking routines, even in a little way, can tickle the brain. Now, I'm not super outdoorsy, but I do love nature. And to illustrate this, I always say, I don't need to spend a night in the woods. I just would love an afternoon among the trees. To me, that's breaking a pattern. I make nature a part of my life, but you don't find me in a tent too often. Another great example was when the wholesome, genial Ken Jennings, the host and former super champ of Jeopardy, dropped a Tribe Called Quest's lyric, "Q-tip is my title. I don't think that it's vital for me to be your idol, but dig this recital." That happened live on air. I almost fell off my chair. So did Seth Green, the celebrity contestant, the contestant on Celebrity Jeopardy, actor Seth Green. Just blown away. Even better, though, was when there was a Q&A, I think before or after a taping, and this was on their Instagram, on Jeopardy's Instagram, and he was asked if he ever just pops into like his local pub's quiz night, and he said, "Oh, just to stunt on those hoes?" I thought that was unbelievable. That really almost made me fall out of my chair. So he will forever be Ken Stunt on Those Hoes Jennings to me. Another pattern breaker is the song "Nothing But Flowers" by the Talking Heads that popped up in my algorithm not too long ago. I'm convinced it's inspired by that they paved paradise and put up a parking lot song. In "Nothing But Flowers" we hear, "From the age of the dinosaurs, cars have run on gasoline. Where have they gone? Now it's nothing but flowers." And then we hear, "There was a shopping mall, now it's all covered with flowers. If this is paradise, I wish I had a lawnmower." I love it. I think it's hilarious. I kind of can't believe more people haven't done that. Just sort of like shows you the groupthink that we all have, especially like artsy, creative people. Speaking of pattern breaking, we're going to stay on that. I saw a post from this comedian Veronica, I can't say her last name, Słakowska. It's like a Polish last name. She's on Saturday Night Live. She's kind of an Instagram comedy star. She was all glammed up in Louis Vuitton, and she talked about how she felt fierce. She looked fierce. Fierceness always throws me for a bit. I've talked about like trying to find ego and other balance, or ego and awareness balance, or maybe achievement and chill balance before. And it's such an issue for me. Because I keep returning to it, I know it's really more of an emotional issue as opposed to an intellectual dilemma. I've built up this whole thing, and I think I'm overestimating how great it would be to really be fierce and gain some sort of notoriety. I also think I'm overestimating how bad it would be to chase success like that and be a slave to others' approval. Obviously, these are issues for a lot of people and have been for eons across cultures. But the older I get, the more I see how all the issues that press me are really not such big deals. I've been reading Lil Kierkegaard recently, and it strikes me how much he worried about authenticity. You know, I get how oppressive conforming can be, especially with its obsession with objective knowledge. I mean, think about how we have a nearly pathological obsession with data-driven decision-making today, despite how many important matters in human life can never be captured by data, and how how conformity can lock us into gender roles and marriages or careers that drive us to despair. But to be nearly as obsessed with being authentic or being creative or being loving or being just seems to me to be just another kind of moralizing. And I think Kierkegaard gets into that trap. I mean, he's really bothered by the Danish chattering class, and he's obsessed with being authentic, as were the other existentialists. Flannery O'Connor, the American author, fantastic American author, she wrote a novel about this, where an artist made his art sort of a replacement for his religion, and he was sort of constantly agonizing about it. Anyway, obsessing, I think sometimes can be something about like a deep part of us or our souls, trying to get us to focus on what we're supposed to be doing. But I think if you can turn away from obsessing, almost always it's a good thing. At least for me, it has been. I was, as I mentioned, I was substitute teaching for a 3rd grade class for the last month. One of my students kept begging me for mind-blowing facts this year. He's a sweet little kid. Had a little lisp, you know. Hey, Patrick, more mind-blowing facts. More mind-blowing facts. So I gave him a bunch. A lot of them involve physics. We talked about how the faster one moves through space, the less they move through time. I always thought that was mind-blowing. I was never taught that. I just learned it in my 20s when I stumbled across the Nova series, The Fabric of the Cosmos. Talks about all this kind of stuff. It's like really fascinating Einsteinian physics and quantum mechanics. Highly recommended. It's free on their website. Also, The Elegant Universe, a lot of the similar topics. Anyway, so we talked about that, how if you move through, the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. And it got me thinking that it would be like a great skincare treatment if you could just get people, like, you know, on a spaceship and have them move near the speed of light. So I figured we could head to Beverly Hills and grab a couple of aging movie stars, put them on the ship. We'd fly around for a good long while. They wouldn't age at all. Yeah, they wouldn't see their family or loved ones again because time would move normally on Earth and eventually all those people would die. But hey, we'll keep a window open on the ship, and at that speed, their tears will dry before they even know they're there. All right, let's move to uncle jokes. Some of you might remember uncle jokes, you know, are like dad jokes, but just like uncles are funnier than dads, uncle jokes are funnier than dad jokes. I think we all know that. What's a duck's favorite snack? Cheese and crackers. Yeah, baby. I made that up. I did write that, but I think it's out there in joke books too. But hey, man, great minds, or mediocre minds, maybe. Think alike. All right, here's one from my boy Cal. Where do cantaloupe children go in the summer? They go to John Cougar's Melon Camp. Yeah, John Cougar's Melon Camp. That's for you millennials and older people. Okay, trying to put the earmuffs on if you got kids listening with you. Okay, this is a little R-rated. It's gonna get a little R-rated, so put the earmuffs on. Turn the volume down. That's just a fair warning. So a friend of mine, a female, she got divorced, and then she wrote a book about being on the prowl, sexually on the prowl. It's not a usual thing you see, especially amongst sort of the chattering class over here in Brooklyn, or in anywhere in the United States, or the Western world, the world at large, I would say. Anyway, if she was a hockey bro of a certain age, we'd probably call her a cocksmith. But so as not to misgender anybody, I deemed her a pussy pro. That's what I thought would be an apt description. I thought about vagina virtuoso, but I didn't think it rolled off the tongue. All right, that's a little bit of the R-rated. We're back to the regular, clean, Gene, Patty Pod. You can turn the volume back up if you got kids in the car. Okay, I was thinking about mood. It dictates so much of what I do. It seems mercurial, mine does at least. I think a lot of people feel that way about their own moods, even though we know they're influenced so much by personality, by values, by our aims, what we think we're achieving, or what we think needs to be happening in our lives. Some of that's unconscious, we know now, but it feels unpredictable, even though we know where a lot of this comes from. For example, I thought I would visit a friend over the 3-day weekend, over Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend, but I was just too in the mood to finish this Wagner opera that I was watching and to read, even though I wasn't really captured and raptured by either the reading or the opera. But it dictated my actions. I also reflected about how important mood in stories is. It's another sense of the word mood, of course, but it's also related to human feeling. The mood of a narrative, it's so vital to the world that's built. I think about Harry Potter when I think about world building a lot. I think about my friend Mike's books too. He wrote these detective novels, and he he talks a lot about like what food the detective is eating. And it really just built a mood. Also about him like racing motorcycles around town. So mood, so important. It's just like can make or break any kind of a narrative for me, a movie or a book. Speaking of mood and feelings, they still seem so overlooked in today's world. That may seem wrong to you, to some listeners, when we think about like all the sensitivity training we have to do and all the social justice talk we encounter. But I still find many, especially straight cisgendered men such as myself, focusing on information and on the material world. For many of us, the word emotion, to say nothing of the word feelings, are never used. At most, we hear of mental toughness or mental health, but I know many guys who will never even say emotional health, like my emotional health wasn't good, or I couldn't deal with my feelings. I mean, I know a lot of guys that I don't think I will ever utter phrases like that to their dying day. Certainly, though, there are those who are just sort of by nature oriented toward a cerebral or a scientific life. But those people are driven, and drives are deeply intertwined with emotion. Who knows, though, maybe that's the next unfolding of the world spirit, as Hegel would say. So reading a little bit about Hegel, I'm kind of going back to my old textbook from college. It's a commentary on, the history of Western philosophy and kind of re-familiarizing myself. But anyway, I saw a t-shirt on a dude the other day. He was ripping a dart, walking down the street at like 7:30 in the morning, coming my way. That's smoking a cigarette, I guess, for those of you that don't speak my brand of hockey bro hip-hop slang. Anyway, his shirt said, "Hi, I don't care. Thanks." Hey, man, I guess some people have enough friends. I'm starting a new corner on the Patty Pod. Of course, we got the language corner, the fashion corner, a couple other corners maybe, if I can remember. Did a lot of peyote in the 70s, so, the memory's not quite there. I'm starting a new corner. It's called the Too Much Time on Their Hands corner. To wit, I found out I was apparently putting my cologne on the wrong way. Nope, you can't just spray it on yourself. Apparently, you have to create a cloud of mist and then, I guess, artfully walk into it. Now, who had the time? I mean, what is this based on? Did somebody do a study? I mean, who has the time to do this? Who would even think? Oh, we can't spray. Maybe spraying it on myself is not the most efficient way of applying the scent. I don't know, man. I honestly, if there ever was a first world problem. Actor Will Arnett said on Smartless, one of those other podcasts that for some reason gets a few more listens than this one. I don't know, guys, because you, dear listener, you're in the vanguard of the intellectual march that is humanity right now. In any case, Will Arnett says that we can't boil our water when we make coffee. So sorry, what should we say? You centuries worth of coffee makers, or maybe you millennia worth of coffee makers? You guys fucking burned the beans this whole time. And all you idiots who ever thought you enjoyed a good cup of coffee, well, you're just a bunch of Philistine rubes slurping swill. There's a lot of talk of passion and purpose these days. I think purpose will involve key emotions, but I think they're going to be subtle over the long term. Passion, in my mind, often elicits thoughts of big emotions that happen frequently. And in my opinion, that's an unsustainable roller coaster. I think the feelings of purpose can be very small, but I think they're constant and enduring. And as such, they are vital because they'll carry a person through the long stretch of a career in this topsy-turvy world. That's a little distinction that came to me. Difference between passion and purpose, I think they get kind of conflated, but I do think if I just strive for passion all the time, I'm going to go crazy. But little emotional drips happen with purpose, and they keep me going. Hey, the Knicks are on a historic heater. I mentioned at the top of the show, of course, the whole city is going crazy. It is very fun to see and be a part of. We were in an Uber the other night, and there were people watching in a bar that we pulled up to at a red light, and we could hear the roar of the crowd through the closed car doors. That was kind of amazing. This kind of stuff's happening all over town. The epic comeback in Game 4 only added to the exuberance. I mean, it was nuts. Everyone thought the Knicks were dead in the water. A lot of people were just kind of barely keeping tabs on the game because they were down by so much, so late in the game. But then they just marched back and San Antonio collapsed. In any case, it truly does unify the various identity groups we have here in the city more than anything else I've ever seen, and I've heard that from other New Yorkers that have been here even longer. As a non-fan, I try not to pretend too much, but I am cheering them on. You'd have to be a world historical party pooper not to do so. Also, as a fan of the Twins and the Vikings and the New York Rangers, I have been bereft for decades, and I'm hoping to catch a little contact high from the rivalry. Of course, I had to tell Seinfeld and Chalamet and the gang nope to their invites, despite their pleading. Give them to a true fan, I told them. Plus, my shades were in the shop, so, I wouldn't have fit in courtside. That brings me to the fashion corner. We've talked about shades inside before, but we're really going to have to throw the penalty flag here on Anna Wintour and Timothée Chalamet. I know it's Anna Wintour's signature, but my lady had them on inside a dark theater at the Tony Awards the other day. They're so large and close to her face that they're basically goggles also. And when you see them in a quick pan of the camera, in that context, she looks like a blind person. I'm not sure if that's the intention. As for Chalamet, my dude, you're starting to look like a scene from a comedy where a white teenage rapper wins the lottery. I mean, he's rocking an expensive, loud orange tracksuit and shades as well inside MSG. He looks more Malibu's Most Wanted than a drippy artist king. I thought at first for sure he'd look back on it with a wince. When, maybe when he's middle-aged, a middle-aged actor. But who knows? Maybe this disease is progressive. If so, I can only hope it gets more avant-garde unless Lil Wayne meets Russian mafioso. Hey, anytime anyone says you've said something stupid, you just have to tell them that Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book about what you said being true. All arguments will end immediately. I promise. I was out with some hockey friends and met one of their older dads who's been in New York City real estate for decades. And I asked him if he knew a real estate guy who put $5 million into the rink that we play in, figuring this guy must be a pretty big fish if he can put that kind of money up just so his kid can play the game. My buddy next to me laughed at me, saying, "Hey man, not all real estate guys know each other." I said I didn't have a comeback at the time, but later it hit me that I should have said something like, "Well, Malcolm Gladwell wrote about how studies show we vastly underestimate the smallness of our worlds." I could have dropped the mic right then and there. My reflective life has taught me not to be so reflective. I've really come to learn how helpful it can be to follow that advice and just have fun instead. After some time, I hope never to reflect again, really. And maybe even to laugh and laugh and laugh and then kind of just like float up to some kind of enlightenment. I keep desiring for reflection, though, and now I've decided that I'm going to accept it and let whatever it is doing this desiring to lead the way. Some of this is connected to a comment my medium made when she told me that authors and gurus I like are knuckle-dragging humans like us too, or just knuckle-dragging humans too. I think it's a little bit harsh, but it did drive the point home that, maybe nobody has really floated up to enlightenment, or maybe it's just not in store for me. Okay. We are at the 29 minute mark, my friends. Last episode we read you chapter 1 of my novella, The Podcaster. I'm going to read chapter 2 this episode. Maybe I can entice you to buy the book because you're so enthralled. You can get it on Amazon. Just search for The Podcaster by Patrick Brooks and you'll get it. Available for ebook purchase for only, I think it's $5. Yeah, $5, and I think I put it at like $10, $12 for the paperback. Paperback writer. That's what my brother started singing to me when I published it. Yeah, and he also said when I told him I was going to be teaching pre-K, his response was juice boxes all around. Pretty good, Nick. Pretty good. All right, here we go. Chapter 2. Every year on the Friday that follows Thanksgiving, Martin would host a group of guys from the hockey game at his country home in Westchester County, just outside of New York City. It was a great session of what they called bonus hockey, an extra game outside of their normal routine. Everyone looked forward to this holiday treat and being in a gorgeous wooded setting. Playing hockey was their favorite hobby or close to it, and to include it in the holiday festivities really felt like icing on the cake. It didn't hurt that it felt a little glamorous being invited to the country home of a movie star. Carl wasn't thinking about glamour, however, this year. Carl was thinking about leverage. Martin was politically progressive, as mentioned, and had cultivated an artsy and fun image. Getting pictures of him smoking marijuana would likely cause him no embarrassment at all. Getting pictures of him with any drug probably wouldn't really be much of a threat, in fact. Martin was even far enough on the left side of the political spectrum that he once advocated that people shoplift at a chain retail store in Manhattan in a kind of aside in an interview. So, evidence of minor law breaking, really, of any type, would not be a real problem for him. However, quirky and artsy as he may have been, though, he was still human, Carl thought. And unless you are very intentional about it, most people wouldn't want pictures of themselves naked spread widely. That would be it, Carl decided. It was simple and maybe not the most inspired form of blackmail, but he thought it would work. Carl remembered that most of the gang took showers after the game in the basement bathroom of Martin's house. In years past, Martin had too. Carl would simply wait for Martin to go in and then step up on the nearby toilet and take a quick snap. If he was quiet and quick enough about it, no one would be the wiser. The guys would be hanging out by the rink, waiting either for their turn to shower or for the other guys to finish up. Carl would shower before Martin so that he could run back into the house on the pretense that he had left something behind. Carl was quick to exit the rink as soon as the game had ended. He tried to move quickly but casually when taking his gear off and getting his shower stuff ready so as not to arouse any suspicion. Soon, he was out of the shower and back amongst his friends, shooting the shit and pretending to enjoy the bull session. Preoccupied, though he was, on his impending clandestine activities. Oops, I forgot my dop kit, Carl said as soon as he was sure that Martin was in the shower. Quickly, he ran to the house. He could feel his chest and head getting hot from the nerves. He crept down the hallway, phone in hand. Gently, he grabbed the doorknob of the bathroom door. He could hear the shower going at full steam, and he thought he could hear Martin singing the Beatles song, Within You, Without You. Very slowly, he turned the knob of the door until it could turn no more. He then opened the door very slowly and only a crack at first. He could see inside to the room filled with steam. The mirror was foggy, but he could still make out the major features of the room, such as the shower curtain, tub, and toilet. He gingerly stepped in and crossed the room to the toilet. He looked down at his phone to make sure the camera app was still running. He hovered his thumb just above the big red button. Then, he stepped up on the toilet seat and noticed it felt a bit slick. "What the fuck were you thinking?" shouted Greg, one of the hockey guys. Carl was just coming to, lying on the bathroom floor, looking up at 5 of the guys assembled over him looking down on him. The back of his head was throbbing in pain. Quickly, it dawned on him he slipped and fell in the toilet, but he didn't know what came next. "What happened?" he asked. "Martin said he saw you trying to take a fucking picture of him in the shower," Aaron answered. "Oh, fucking shit," he thought. "No, I was just trying to get reception on my phone." "In the bathroom?" one of them asked. "Well, I was in here to get my dop kit, and I was trying to get reception to read a text." So you stand on the toilet and point your phone at Martin while he's fucking naked in the shower to get reception? Another chimed in. I really wanted to read that text. Carl murmured back, almost inaudibly. Well, now he wants us all gone immediately, you fucking moron, replied Greg. The ride home was quiet to say the least. There was a sense that Carl had ruined all of their relationships with the movie star, who also happened to be a very nice guy that enjoyed bringing them out to his beautiful country home for a great holiday tradition. That's it. You're going to have to buy the book to get the remaining chapters if you can't wait, which I'm sure you cannot. All right, everybody. That's it for this week. As always, if you're enjoying the podcast, please give me a little review and rate it on your platform. It can even be as small as "This is a good podcast." Thanks, everybody. Peace and love.